We have connected to the internets. My name is Taylor. I am here with Scott Connors, the Chief Change Officer at Crankset Group. Scott, you're not in your regular location.
No,
Have you set up some type of commercial unit in your residence? Are you bringing people in, or are you out in the world?
Yeah, I just have Amazon just drop off by drone a Connex, and just go visit my clients that way, brother. No, I'm in sunny Southern California, visiting with one of my clients. It feels good to be back in person, man. It feels good to be, shaking people's hands again and just being with people and being with my clients. And, I'm starting this sort of multi-pronged road trip from now, even through January, and, booking some things just to get in front of my people again personally. And boy, the hugs and the hand slaps and then the hand sanitizer, right? It's like 1, 2, 3. I got it down pat.
That's awesome. So this is something that's probably a pretty big demand right now because, Scott, you advise a lot of leadership and we're in business planning season, right?
Yeah, we're in business planning season. And one of the things that we're doing in business planning season is we're shortening our horizon line. I like to treat things on a quarterly basis. I like to look quarter to quarter and be able to adjust. Obviously, with the changes that are happening in every business and all the things that we're going through, I like to take a 90-day line of sight, but now we're taking 45-day lines of sight. We're doing sprints. I'm calling them waypoints and sprints and goalposts. What do we need to accomplish in the next 45 days? What does it look like after that? And then overlaying on top of that, we're setting up strategic planning work groups, and we're bringing in people in from throughout our companies that wouldn't normally sit in strat planning sessions and bringing them into the conversation. What do we need to be doing 90 days from now? And I'll tell you what I'm hearing a lot of: opportunity. There are a lot of opportunities right now.
Okay, so you're talking about a formation. So when we see football teams set up, we see them set up formation to achieve goals, right? Like there's certain formations that are going to cater to strengths or weaknesses. And what I see in your design is you're setting up a very nimble formation. So You're involving people from work groups into strategic planning so that you can get more information from the hands closest to the work. And then you're setting up more checkpoints in order to make changes more rapidly. This seems like a plan that you're setting up because you see turbulence in 90 days.
Yeah, good turbulence. If there's such a thing, it's good turbulence, right? A couple of things to your football analogy. Sometimes you run the ball to wind the clock so that the other team can't put their offense on the field. Mm-hmm. And right now, some of that's going on is let's just keep moving forward in these small steps. And let's look for when we want to execute on the next opportunity. Let's start building our marketing and our messaging. Let's start getting our infrastructure in place for that next level of growth. But right now, let's wind the clock down a little bit. And one of the main features of that is let's let our people enjoy the holiday season. Because if you don't let them, they're going to do it anyway. People they're rip raring to go. There's government stimulus, either up there in Canada, down here in America. We've seen some movement there this week. I want to talk about that today, Taylor. On the job front, some amazing numbers came out yesterday, which didn't surprise me necessarily, but surprised most. But this is going to be a very merry holiday season, and we got to let our players play.
Okay, so this is something that I'm really passionate about because I think that there's so many people that are successful in ruining their racehorses.
Yeah,
right.
Well said, yeah.
The truth of the matter is that those are relationship equity accounts, and you can make deposits. You definitely going to want to take withdrawals, but if you withdraw all the time and never deposit, now you're going to end up with bankruptcy problems. Yeah. And we just saw a whole bunch of this because basically, like any negotiation, it's the best alternative to the negotiation at hand that's going to dictate where that zone of potential agreement is. And what I mean by that, just to take a step further, is that when everyone else actually saw the options because they had to stop working, that's what made the pain of change lower than the pain they were in. Yep. And then as soon as that happens, that's the pain index, and then they change. So when you're talking about investing into these relationships and you're saying that you're going to let them play at Christmas, is there anything that, what else is along those lines that companies can think about that might be like low impact to them and high impact to the teammate?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple, but first I want to touch on a word you use, bankruptcy. I'm using the term almost ad nauseum, emotional bankruptcy.
Oh, yeah.
And, presidents and CEOs and board members are going, okay, now that makes sense because we can put it into context, right? So I'll give you one easy example, right? You normally have Christmas parties, or you normally have a Christmas bonus, or you normally have some sort of incentive, right? Take all those budgets, put them in a basket, divide it by the number of stakeholders you have, and give it to them. Give it to them. Have your Christmas your way. You do it your way this year. We'll see you next year. And get your game faces on because we're coming back to work. So we're making that deposit into the emotional bankruptcy account to keep our head above water, right? And I used to worry, and a lot of small businesses worry about cash flow, right? It's always something you're conscious about, right? So now, emotional flow. How's the emotional flow in your organization? How are we doing? How does it feel? And if you really focus on on your labor as cash flow, right? Is it strong? Is it weak? Is it waning? Do I have a line of sight on it? You can project cash flow out as far as you want. No two companies ever project cash flow the same way. It means something different to every organization. There's no two that are alike. Not even car manufacturers look at cash flow the same. But emotional flow, now that's something we got to pay attention to. Because the emotional flow is a factor in your future cash flows. And if you're treading above water barely on towards emotional bankruptcy, your people are leaving, they're disgruntled, they're getting recruited, and they're not going to help you plan. So the strategic planning process, by bringing everybody into that loop, I mean everybody, you're getting an emotional checkpoint there as well. And that's a byproduct of bringing people into the planning process. What do you see 90 days from now? I don't really know. That person emotionally is drained. Check into that. Weigh into that. That's an emotional flow. That's an emotional bankruptcy opportunity we need to avoid.
That's interesting because, look at what happens when we're emotionally attached to things. Engagement. That's what happens.
That's right.
Right? Like, you can see it bubble up on social media. I always look at it like, for the most part, most people, their participation on social media is that of a voyeur. They're just looking, right? Now, what does it take for them to actually go and like something or comment on something? Mm-hmm. It has to reach a level of what you would call like emotional cash flow.
Yep.
Yeah, or maybe we could say emotional value. What emotional value does it move from watching to taking action?
Yeah. And leaders don't know how to do that. A vast majority of leaders in the capitalist traditional mindset are all about profit and loss. You don't measure profit and loss in terms of revenue minus expenses anymore. You measure it in terms of revenue plus happiness minus expenses.
See, wasn't it like it was almost like the last generation of really successful leader had a way to succeed within the rules of the game, and unfortunately the lens of measurement was all financially. But the most exceptional leaders were the ones that were able to craft culture inside of that. And now it seems like this next generation is going to be shown that culture is the key. But what they're like, and I think that the problem that they're trying to solve is the fear or the limiting belief is that it won't be worth it.
Right.
But like, how many examples do we need?
Right, exactly. And look, you're going to spend, $5,000, whatever the math is on your Christmas party, give it to your people. You're going to spend it anyway. It's in the budget. If it's in the budget and it's not tied to the emotional inspiration and happiness meter, I call it the happiness meter, right? The smiley face is different levels of a smiley face. I want to see a big circle of smiles, right? And that's why it feels good to be in person, because through a screen, you can sense it if you're good at it and you're really paying attention to it, but you can't really feel it. And you can't lead it if you can't see it.
I totally agree. And I think that even some of the things that we've been taught have evolved. Like, it used to be the golden rule. Treat everybody as you would want to be treated. But that rule was also set as being like 100%. And then a lot of people were like, yeah, I could kind of do 75% of that or whatever. And now when they start to increase their giving, they feel like everybody's going to keep taking from them. But that's because they don't understand the emotional level of play has changed. And the rule now, I think you could refer to it as a platinum rule. which is treat other people as they wish to be treated, which would mean that you're obligated to get to know them. And that's something that I also think is a big difference between leaders in a quality level is the idea is you're not supposed to understand the technical ability, but you should know that person so well that you can help them achieve something that's beyond your understanding.
Yeah. And you know where that starts? That starts in hiring. You don't hire for proficiency, you hire for character. Do I want to go to work with this person every day? Do I literally want to get in the bus and drive around and wherever it is we're going in our mission statement, our vision statements, which are another topic that I think is next in line here behind this empathy period, as I like to say, this emotional bankruptcy period. What do I want to be with this person every day? Does this person make me better? Does this person challenge me? Am I open to being challenged? Leaders need to be challenged. And, we call this our show here, Leadership Line of Sight. I don't care how good your eyes are, you can only see so far. But if everybody's looking in the same direction, we can see a lot more. And that's the message. That's kind of my road trip message is what can we see together? When leaders say, well, this is what I'm seeing, I say, I don't care what you're seeing. Like, what do you mean? Right? People that hire me, Quentin Gardner, the co-founder of HCA Group, he says to me, Scott, if you hire a business advisor and they're telling you what you want to hear, you've hired a paid friend. Right? So when, I don't care what leadership sees right now. I care what the people see. I care what their people see. And if they need to care about that too, because they're seeing it from every angle through all kinds of different lenses. And they're not all rose colored. That's okay. At least we know what color they are and we know how to change the spectrum.
Okay, so when you're taking a look at this, you're actually looking at a reverse flow. So a lot of people think that the leader creates the vision, but they also are the owner of the vision and, the keeper of the vision maybe. But the idea is that if they can't hear it resonate back from the people at every level in their business, then the vision is hidden, right?
Right. That's right.
And
look, vision is really simple. And it should come from the top. But vision without buy-in is not worthless. It's less than worthless. Now, worthless means there's zero contribution, right? But if somebody's anti or against, that's worse than worthless. That's somebody trying to take us a different way. Someone who's anti-message, anti-vision. Those are the kind of things that'll crush a company over time. And if you're not walking with your people right now, you're not going to see where the dissent is coming from.
Yeah, and you're also probably not going to see where they are. So if you chose a vision that was unachievable, it wouldn't be able to be it may not be known early enough in the process.
Yep. And it has to be inclusive. And when inclusion is one of those words, and I might get in trouble for this one, Taylor, I don't know, but I don't believe the word inclusion applies to including races, colors, creeds. I believe people are people, right? I grew up in New York City. There's a melting pot, right? People are people, right? But inclusion means inclusion in your vision. And when you're hiring, hire the best person. Hire the best person for the job, the best character for the job, the one who has the most passion for the opportunity. Not someone who can do the job the best, but someone who has the most passion for it. I hate spreadsheets, but I'm really good at them. But I hate them, man. Not another one, not another forecast. Please don't put that on my, I don't want it. Okay, I'll do it. I hate it. I'm not passionate about it. I may be good at it, but I don't want to do it. So do we have the right people in the right places, doing the right things at the right times for the right reasons? That's inclusion, because we got to point our people where they want to shoot at. If we don't do that right now, it's going to be trouble 2022 Q1. It's not going to be businesses, and you're going to see this out there. It's not going to be businesses slowing down. It's going to be businesses crashing and burning in a hurry.
Yeah, that rapid ebb and flow, or what I'm talking about or describing as being like turbulence. That's going to be something that I think ties to this. So I'm going to bring something up on screen here. So this is something that you fired over to me. Scott, you and I are in constant contact, firing back and forth. And what you were talking about was a poll this was something that we saw on LinkedIn. And it's, do you trust what you see on television? Right? So I think I might be able to make this a little bit better. Let's see if this works. So do you trust what you hear on TV? And basically 80%, 87% of people said no, right? And so what I'm wondering is when we talk about like knowing where your people are and understanding things and also like getting everybody going in the right direction, it's really difficult right now because you can't even understand where where things are coming from.
Right. But what you can understand is this, and this is important for if you're in any sort of leadership position at any level. Authority equals distrust. The more authoritative you are in your style of leadership, the less people trust you, because authority has let us down significantly more in a shorter period of time than in our history. We do not trust authority. Nobody does, right? Whether it's the issues we had with our police forces here in America and awful, awful stories there. And I work with law enforcement agencies, and I'll tell you that most of them are just fantastic people, right? But they're not the ones that are being shown out there in the spotlight. It's the bad ones, like the bad eggs, right? But authority equals distrust. Look at the Canadian government. How much do we trust it?
Yeah, but
Look
that's
at the
not
American government.
So like authority was always mistrusted. Like it was always known that power and corruption were like, they were neighbors that share sugar.
Right.
Right. And so these things, I think, like for me growing up as a kid, and I also know that this is something that lives in you, is maybe now we're like welcoming the rest of the folks. Like we always knew that the people that were the authorities were just people in positions. There were people with titles. There were people with doing jobs to represent whatever plan that was developed from that entity, right?
Yeah.
So now let's talk about that in like inside of businesses. So where like when you see like you use the word authority, and what I'm going to use is compulsion. Do this or right?
Mandate.
Yeah, that compulsive, that's something that was like education when we were kids was compulsive, right? Where now they talk about operant conditioning, where the opposite of reward is just no reward,
right,
instead of punishment.
Right.
And man, you get people to chase things and engage so much more when instead of saying like, hey, if you don't make this, you're going to have to deal with me, to be like, hey, if you don't make this, I got your ankles.
Yep.
Right? Like just know that I won't let you fall, but I think that it's really important that you fail.
Yeah. Fail forward.
Mm-hmm.
Fail forward. That's the key. Failure is part of what we accept in our culture. Failure is because it means you tried. But what did we learn? And I've said it before. We don't lose. We win or we learn. And I love the wins. I mean, I get paid for the wins, right? We all do, right? That's the numerical piece. That's the revenue piece. That's the bank account piece. But it's the learns where the good stuff is. What did we really, truly learn? In every company out there, the most important meetings you'll ever have is the debriefs. It's when you come together and say, what did we learn? And if you foster a culture that inspires that type of communication to bring your true self into those conversations, the learns are what propels us. The real fuel is not the revenue. The real fuel is what we learned from when we didn't get that sale or we didn't win that client. And you hear about the client funnel or the client acquisition process. That's the kind of stuff that sends me off. Come on, stop. These are people. And at the CEO of the company I'm visiting with today, it's an ecosystem of companies, a conglomerate, if you will, under the name of JC Legacy Holdings. Their CEO, Alan Cooper, who's sitting about 8 feet from me right now, might even be watching. He's going to be smiling here. He says, people do business with people. Let's never forget that. People go to work with people. People succeed together. People learn from their failures together. Failure is not a solo approach. Failure is a team approach. What did we learn? And next time we'll do it better. That's the true growth. That's the true collective, collaborative mindset.
Look at what you get when you approach it that way. Like when you approach things saying companies don't make relationships, people make relationships. When you approach things thinking connection over transaction, these things are the things that make everybody feel great. They make a place that's good to work, and they also achieve incredible goals.
Yeah.
And it's a base understanding that the team you're putting together is a learning team.
Yep.
Marketing is a business that I'm in, and marketing is changing so fast right now. If you're not approaching it saying like, who can I surround myself with that can handle the pace of these social media systems changing their algorithms, of the needs of companies changing. Like right now, there are companies that are like, how like Pluto from 1930 till 2006 was a planet? They were never a planet. They just had really great marketing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that it's like perception control, but these things are changing so rapidly. So another thing when you're talking about authority inside of businesses, I have to come to think about the things that normally leaders are asking people or making mandatory to do. All right. So when we talk about like, I would say probably the top of the list is meetings. So how do we approach those things and say like, okay, if authority makes us look less trusted, but we need some of these systems to make businesses run? What do you see there?
Well, I do a couple things differently in the cultures that I change. Number one, we don't have meetings, period. We have work groups. There's a mission. And the mission might be to, let's make an easy one. Buy a new copier. And just keep a simple example here. Now, who uses the copier? Why is the president or the CFO in the room? Sure, it's a $10,000, $20,000 lease we're signing, but who uses the copier? Those are the people that should be in the room. The work group mission is to select a new copier. You come together with a common purpose or a mission, mini missions, I call them. This is the work group. You invite everybody. If you really are interested in which copier we get, we'd really like you to join us for 15 minutes once a week for the next 4 weeks. Meeting one, bring your ideas of what we need analysis. Meeting number two, we all come in and say, I like this one. I like that one. I like this one. I know a guy. I know a gal. Meeting number three, get that list down to 2 or 3 that you like. Meeting 4, this is our choice 1, our choice 2. Now it goes to the CFO or the bookkeeper or the office manager to go negotiate the lease or go negotiate terms. Then no more meeting, no more work group. You're done. Disband it. What's the next thing we need to work on? It might be different people in the work group. I'll give you another example. Actually, we'll stay with the question. So the second thing that I do is that we do differently now, and this, I think COVID really brought this one to light for me. It's called Quick Connects. One of my companies calls it 10 to 10. At 10 to 10 every day, the people that need to be connecting connect. They connect for 10 minutes. What do you need? What do you want? What can we do to help? Every day, quick connects. So work groups is one way to undo the meeting piece. The second way is quick connects. The third thing to remember about meetings is this. I don't know what kind of religious household you grew up in, but in most of my friends' households, every Sunday you were getting dressed and going to church. Okay? That is not something you looked forward to because it was a ritual. Meetings are rituals. What people look forward to is traditions, like Christmas dinner with the family and football. So we want to turn our rituals into traditions. We want to make them something that people look forward to attending. So when you look at your calendar and every week at this time, I got to be in this meeting, that's a ritual. Don't do that. Don't do that. And then one more thing that's worked out really well is always set your work groups and your quick connects for 10 till or a quarter after. Why? Because that gives people 15 minutes before the top of the hour or 15 minutes into the top of the hour to just do some personal stuff like return emails and those kind of things. Why? Because if you don't do that, what are people doing during meetings? Just look at their eyes. Look at the screen. They're on email. They're doing anything else but listening and engaging. So if you call it a meeting and you hold it as a ritual, your engagement level drops through the floor drain, period.
That's incredible. So these things are different approaches, and normally we're trying to solve challenges. And I can see some of the things that are going to be solved by doing it this way. First off, the people that find the meeting to be the least valuable don't have to go. So like who's ever been dragged to a photocopier meeting or been through a meeting that contains everything from photocopying to like food storage in the lunchroom, and like it's just, how do you subscribe to part of that?
That's right. Well, and that's the key, right? Because what do you always start with? Why? So if you say to everybody, hey, there's a photocopier work group, and I'm using a real world example here. If you say to everybody, hey, there's a photocopier work group, who's coming? Nobody. But if you say to somebody, hey, we're about to make your life a lot easier. We're about to let you do your work in far less time. We're about to select the tool that will let you print what we need in the office from your home. We're going to do all those things for you. That's why we're doing this. It's a very important decision we're going to make your life better and more productive. Cool, I'm in. What is it? A photocopier. Oh, yeah, right? But it's the tool. It's the why. So you always start with why. And people, they jump right over it. Leaders jump right over it. All right, come on in. We're going to select a photocopier. And everyone's like, oh, are you kidding me right now? But look how important that is. Look how important that is for me to be more productive. Right? 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 If someone can scan something to me now and it's in the ecosystem, or it's in, Teams, or it's in whatever operating system we're using, and it's labeled with the job number, and she hits, the person using the copier selects everybody that's on that team or within that job number, and there's a notification that pops up. Everybody wants that. Everybody would love to have that tool. Say photocopier and see who shows up. Say what I just said and see who shows up. So you're not selling the why, you're just starting with why.
That's a good point. So in moving down, as we get into business planning, how do you see business planning then? When you take a look at I guess the reason for doing it overall, what would you want to achieve more, and how would you approach it?
Number one's mindset. Okay. So a business leader that leads with ego and leads in an authoritative manner says, this is where we're going. Ritual, by the way. How about we start with, hey guys, we need to think about the future. Where do you guys want to go? And as I like to say in my CEO coaching roles, show up and shut up and listen to that room. And if you watch, you watch leaders all the time. The conversation starts and they want to interject. Shut up. Go on mute. Put tape over your mouth. Do something. God gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason. Listen to where your people want to go. It doesn't matter if you agree with it or not. What matters is you're listening to your people, and it will help you form your vision, and it will help you form your strategic planning. That's number one. Number two, start from the end and reverse engineer backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So once you decide where you want to go, now how do we get there? That's where business planning is changing, and it's changing everywhere. And business planning, for the listeners, business planning doesn't start with, our vision is to go to the moon. I always like that moon example because that sounds really far away and really hard to get to. Well, really, you can actually buy a ticket to get there now, almost, with Mr. Bezos and Musk. But the point is very simple. Where do we want to go? Oh, we'd like to be smaller because it's really a lot of work on us right now. Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that in 2022, we're gonna kind of get smaller. So how do we get smaller? Well, let's let some clients, that really are hard to work with or really aren't big revenue generators, those kind. Let's ask them to go find another source, or let's give them a way out. Oh boy, that just doesn't sound very comfortable, does it? And if you're the leader, you're thinking, well, if I get smaller, there goes my revenue. What if we raise our prices? What if we treat our clients better? What if our deliverables are better when we're smaller, and we can take our clients and serve them better? That's the same thing as getting smaller. And you may not like where we're going in 2022, and you still want to grow your revenue. So find a way to do it within the reverse engineering.
So I like how you lay these things out. This is like a really good preview as to what you do for helping people form decisions and make these changes inside of businesses. I imagine that there's a lot of people that are afraid to make changes like this. Right? Like you start talking about things like turning meetings into missions. And this is something that they're like, okay, I'm not sure if some of my team is going to get on board with stuff like this. how does, like, if somebody right now they didn't have change and they were looking to like start a process that would develop into making change, what does that look like?
Well, first of all, the words are extraordinarily important. What's another word for change? Innovation. Sounds a lot better, right? It's like as consumers, we hate to be sold anything. Don't sell me. I'm out of here. But we love to buy. So give me all the information I need to make a buying decision and get out of the way. So the words are important. And the other thing to remember is not everybody's going to agree ever on any decision. So leadership still have to make the difficult decisions, and then they need to execute on those decisions with their team. So if you don't have consensus, you don't have buy-in, which means the direction isn't the right one. And the other thing to remember is this: data does not connect people. Stories do. So what's our story? So where do we want to go, and what's the story we want to tell to get us there? And let's write that story together. Let's write the next chapter together. You know, I always go back to I just had this conversation yesterday down in San Diego with my client down there. You know, you always start with Batman. I don't know if when you were a kid, you watched Batman. When last we saw our Cape Crusaders, they were tied up and hanging over a lava pit. And then it starts with boom, bang, boom, and they're out, right? Well, it's that feeling of trepidation and that fear that's created from change that we don't embrace in a superhero methodology. Here's the thing, and you know this, your superheroes are all around you. They're the ones that need to use the copier. They're all around you. So think of them as superheroes. I know this doesn't feel good. I know we're tied up and hanging over the lava pit. So let's find a way out together. And it starts with how you're feeling.
Yeah. And also, that's like a big motivator for change, is like understanding someone's situation. The way that I like to do it is I like to take a look at what we would like to change. And that normally kind of like dips people into pain.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, let's say that you wanted to make a physical change. A lot of people are putting on a few COVID pounds, right? And they're now starting to experience the pain associated with that. They lost some of their energy. They're not they're not as comfortable as they were. They may not be sleeping as well. So these are like secondary effects. The first effects were needing to get new pants. Now, if they wanted to facilitate a change and they find that that change isn't working very well, what would happen if they really measured well? Meaning that you could go and get your body mass taken, or you could simply strip down and stand yourself in front of a full-length mirror. Make a slow rotation and just let it all in. If that doesn't make you feel good, you will feel differently about the steps it would take to change that. And that's getting back to that pain index. Suddenly, you realize that the pain you're in is higher than the pain of change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
now with my team, the same thing.
right.
And that's that we talk about what didn't go well.
Right.
What didn't go well? What sucked about your job this year?
Yeah.
And it leads into conversations where we can say, okay, so you're obviously into pain. If I introduce a change here, then would you accept it?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, probably the four most important words for leaders when those people bring those emotions up. There's four words. And if you use them, wonderful things happen. It starts with
Scott, did we get disconnected?
I don't think so, bud. It looks like you're frozen.
I think you may have frozen just a little bit. Okay, we're going to wait for Scott to come back. We're talking about business planning. This is Leadership Line of Sight. Now, my name is Taylor, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have a marketing company and also a real estate company, which is pretty much a marketing company now. If you take a look at how things have changed since the conception of real estate, one of the things is that, oh, it might be me. Okay, technical difficulties. We're going to see if we can get Scott back here. Maybe patch this thing back together at some point. This is leadership line of sight. Just having a little bit of technical challenges. I got the stream back in order, and now I think that we should probably see Scott here log back in a second. So sorry about the interruption there. So if you're listening to this right now, my name is Taylor, and I have a couple of different companies that I run at the same time, a marketing company and a real estate company. And that's basically because I found that real estate became marketing. Like the part of sales of real estate has really changed in the last generation of agents. And because marketing is where the disruption is happening in our marketplace, that's one of the things that I'm very focused on. And so we actually are offboarding the marketing team of a real estate team that did really well. And look at that. We got Scott back here. Okay. So we had an interruption that I think was on my side. It was like some type of interruption that let us in there. So sorry if that disconnection got there. I caught back up about 30 seconds ago. And what I was talking about was just a brief introduction, saying how as someone who did well in real estate, I'm offboarding the marketing team to form its own marketing startup, which is it's been such an interesting and fun time for me as an entrepreneur. And so I love talking about these things because I've been working really hard to level up as an entrepreneur. You know, like it's not easy to start seeing things in the lens that you're talking about, Scott, where you're trying to get more information from the people closest to the work. And this is something that I imagine if I like the further, like larger businesses often have people significantly older than me in these leadership positions. So the change has to be that much harder.
Yeah. And that's what I call being embedded. Right. And so when you live in the same house for 30 years, kind of tough to dig out of there when it's time to move.
We see that all the time, right?
Right.
Moving when you're in your 30s, even with a couple of kids, it's like something that just happens and people just mow through it. Moving someone in like in that age range where they've been there for 30 years, I think that ties to what you're talking about before. The physical belongings are part of it, but the emotional bond to that house, the time it takes to come around to that decision. Like there's people that'll that will clean a bathroom that no one uses for 3 years before. Like, look at all that time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the entrepreneurial spirit is about two things: resiliency and adaptability. Entrepreneurs are great at making money and awful at leading on how to let others lead it after they're done making that initial boom. It's why they start them up and they sell them. Everyone thinks it's because they make a bunch of money. No, it's because they have no idea how to run the organization.
So this is something that like it's almost like entrepreneurs are designed for sprints and then managers are marathons.
Yeah. And that's when you find the balance between the two. Right. And that's why private capital is so popular right now. Is private equity is a really big deal worldwide right now. And private capital, the guys that, and I call them the gamblers because they're gambling on the success of others. And, it's like shooting craps sometimes. But you know what they're going in? You know what they're valuing first? The people around the person.
Mm-hmm.
Can they scale this thing up without him or her? Can they do that? Because we want him or her to keep getting out there and expressing the message. You're the CEO of a company that's gotten through COVID. It's time for you to brand yourself with your company's logo in the background and get back out there. CEOs are all about the brand. CEOs are all about leading the charge into the marketplace, brand awareness, brand execution, right? The compliance behind it, the execution of the strategy, that's for your people behind you. If you don't have a bond between the two, and you're flying in a helicopter and they're landing and they can't see you. So you have to have that kind of line of sight, leadership line of sight, but you got to let your people run. You got to let the horses run.
Man, that was something that you could really see like glowing inside of Ken Patel. We had Ken Patel, founder of many companies, including EV Hotel Group. The passion that lives inside of him and that like CEO messenger that's something that I think that he does in spades.
Yeah, and he inspires by doing it.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I love about Cannon, I can't wait to stay in one of these hotels. This is gonna be great because there's no front desk. Thank you. Not that, hey, all you front desk people out there, thank you. Trust me, thank you. You're great. But can we put you in a place where you can do more good for the hotel and for the property itself? You betcha we can.
And also where you'll have a better experience. Like I remember the first time I landed in Vegas, like I was coming from one conference to the next conference. I landed and I went through that big like cattle run into the MGM. And it was like I'm going through here. I'd never even seen anything like that before. And I'm exhausted from traveling. And I get to the front desk and the lady says, "Oh, here, where's your booking?" And I show her and she says, "This isn't your hotel." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, we have suites in the other end."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
half a mile away, by the way. Yeah.
And so I ended up having to take a $6 cab ride from my hotel to my hotel, and it was the same place. And that was like my initial introduction to that company.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's that client experience. It's changed.
Yeah, and I think that a hotel industry, like I really like CEOs and founders that seek that. Like for me, one of the reasons that I'm in real estate is because of the reputation of real estate. Yeah. We're dedicated to saving people from 3-star experiences. Yeah. That's like what's available, right? And then you take a look at people like Richard Branson. He's looking for those 1-star experiences. He's in cell phones and airlines.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's what he is. He's like the king of that virgin culture that will find a way to make it better.
Right.
And I just love that. I think culture hackers are the future. And that's something that I really identify with. I really want to find more companies and essentially like raise culture inside of them. The environments are awesome.
Yeah. And you know what I love about Branson? You see that industry over there, guys? That's called the airline industry. Look, I just bought a fleet of planes. We're going to call it Virgin. Fix the industry. I'll see you later.
Right.
And he lets his people go. Let's let them go.
Yeah, but if you judge him by who hangs out with him, you know that it's going to get better.
That's exactly right. Surround yourself with people who could do your job in their sleep, please. Hire your next boss every time you hire. Hire someone that's smarter. Hire someone that's more passionate. Hire someone that has more energy. Hire someone that you're jealous of. And they take the ego. Ego is not your amigo. That's it. You take the ego out of it, you get out of the way, great things happen.
Well, the truth is you can choose. You can collaborate or you can compete. So like if you view that person as your competition, then you're forced to compete with people you're jealous of.
That's right.
And the other option is there. Because every time that you work with somebody like that, 1 + 1 should equal 3. You should be able to make more together than either of you can do alone.
Yeah, it's like that post I put out this morning on LinkedIn, with from the Harvard Business Review article, and I think I said something like the leaders of your company are already in your company, and if you want to see examples of it, look through your feed and find the word promoted. Those are leaders of today becoming our leaders for tomorrow within the enterprise. And they're being recognized and they're being empowered. And those cultures of companies, I come back to Ford Motor Company all the time. It's just a whole worldwide group of leaders. And I love it. And if they're not leading yet, they're on their way. They're being groomed to lead. They're in leadership development training. It's all about leading. And you ask them why they work at the brand. I love the brand. I've been here 30 years. I love the brand. I've been here since high school. At Microsoft, it's a company built on interns. Think about it.
Totally. I have an uncle that he bleeds blue, meaning that he was like a dealer principal for Ford for 30 years. He came from inside of there. And sometimes, like, depending on what the model is, you may not see enough layers to see promoted. And so if you ever wonder who the leader is, ask 5 people in one team who they think is help. If you need help, who do you go to?
Right.
There's your leader. The team has already acknowledged it. You just got to give them a title, maybe.
And you know what I love? I love when you're like, when I go into a new company and I have a 4-step process that I take all my companies through. It's just real simple. It's discovery, design, absorption, deployment. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but that's what I do. That's my business. I love when I'm in discovery and I'm forming these work groups, these discovery work groups. Hey, tell me about your business. And somebody shows up, like, somebody, from deep within the bowels of the marketing department or the accounting department or the legal department. And everybody just is waiting for that person to talk. Like they've used this person as a resource forever, right? This was the go-to person, right? And so I'm sitting there and I'm watching the CEO's face, or I'm watching the senior executive in the room, and she or he is like, and they don't even see it. I'm like, there's your leader right there. Oh, well, I don't know. I don't really know. That person, come on. Look at the rest of your people. They're all listening to every word this person says. And you know what else? There's a telltale there. It's always a tell. You know what it is? When the person in that call, that person I'm referencing, the leader in the room, the unrecognized leader in the room, they always say one thing: I want more. I can do more. I'm happy to contribute more. You hear that word more, you hear leader.
So what you're saying is that they're help and they're invested.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that could technically be the earliest indicators that you could see of leadership. Right? Like where the people around are like, no, this person's really helpful. And if you get that in a collection, because that could also solve the biggest challenge, which is like, how do you create a meritocracy while respecting a seniority?
Right.
You know, like how do you make people feel like elders inside of your business while still allowing young people with innovative ideas to lead?
Yeah. And you can do it with 4 words. You know what they are? Good job. Thank you. Oh, but I lost the client. No, you tried so hard to hold on to that client. You did everything that you could do. Thank you. Good job.
So lots of, and that's something that that positive reinforcement, right? I'm wondering what the view is on that, because we were talking before about these relationship equity accounts and how to get more people invested and so on. And where is the fear associated with putting those deposits there? That's right. Like, are they worried that account's going to be worth too much and then someone's going to rob them?
Right. That's right. That's right. And you know what? There's an easy practice for every leader to do. At the end of the day, walk the halls. Someone stops you. You got this group of people who says, I'm going for the day, need anything, those kind of things. Ask them one question. What'd you learn today? Not what'd you do today. What'd you learn today? If someone gets in their car to go home from the office or stands up from their computer and the last thing they heard was from the senior executive on the team that said, what'd you learn today? What do you think they're going to be thinking about all night? What did I really learn today? And then ask the question tomorrow and be consistent in that question. What did you learn today? You'd be surprised what you learn when you hear those answers.
I love that. I want to add something to it. I think that if you could combine these two as a combo, what are you grateful for and what did you learn?
Yeah.
Because I really like asking my teammates about gratitude because I find that it's a baseline. It allows me to hear from them what their focus is. You know, gratitude will also reveal to me a lot of times if something's happening outside of work. Like if somebody's grateful for the fact that, you know, grandma's got another week or something, like these are the things that I love to come up in those conversations. So that radar in those two things, and then it's almost like you're bouncing a beacon off them with the what did you learn? Yeah. Because if you wanted them to learn something, you could only understand that they have learned it if they're able to deliver it back to you.
That's right.
Right?
That's
right. So it's almost like send a signal, look for a response.
That's exactly, there it is right there. That's it right there. And what are you learning through those answers? And if somebody gives you a list of 20 things, they're too busy. They need help. They're crying for help. And if somebody stands there and says, I really didn't learn anything today. Are they passionate about the things they're doing? Let's make a change. Let's move them to somewhere that they're passionate about. It's a barometers. There's so many barometers out there. But the key is, I think more than anything, is respect. Respect that everybody's really busy. Whether it's a combination of their personal lives and their professional lives, there's a lot on everybody's plate right now, man. We are all very, very busy. You're a very busy, man. I'm very busy. Everybody's busy. Respect people's time.
I think that's a big thing. And I think that's a great way to cap off our conversation today. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been Leadership Line of Sight. We'll try to stitch that little disconnection in the middle, right? And so if you did notice that this podcast had like a blip in the middle, that's not your player. That's brought to you by Unstable Internet.
Well, what it is problems are an opportunity. What did we learn? What did we learn?
Totally. And what we learned is that we can still cap off a great podcast, help people understand a little bit more about what leadership line of sight is this week. And we're heading into such an important season. You were saying this, and I think that we could repeat this message. The most important thing to bring into business planning is?
What do you think it is?
Mindset.
That's right.
Yeah, that it absolutely is. The other thing is experience. Is there anything that you could make that's like experiential, right? So that's what I'm cooking right now, and what I'm actually thinking is that we're about to give instructions to a teammate on how to get from point A to point B on the phone without them using navigation, so that we can talk to our teammates about the value of being better guides. And I think that that's what I would want all leaders to know, is that your job is to be a guide. Let the group decide collectively where they're going through your lens. You're the guide, so you get to let them know if they're going to get the results they want from going the direction that they're planning on.
And please, pretty please, everybody, start with why. Why
Absolutely. Powerful words from Scott Connors. He's on the road right now in California, heading through, meeting those teams with his feet on the ground, seeing what they see, often probably eating what they eat. And I think that that's somebody who's definitely invested in the companies that he coaches. And he is the Chief Change Officer at Crankset Group. You can check out his contact information. Definitely easy to get in touch with. My name is Taylor. I am a serial entrepreneur and the marketing strategist at Gravidia, where we're making gravitational media because we understand a lot of the interactions between humans and computers. And honestly, how can you be valuable if you're not visible? I hope that you guys have an excellent week, and we will see you next time on Leadership Line of Sight.
Bye, everybody.